What's up, everyone? Welcome to Small Business Stand Up. As you see, we got a couple of great co-hosts with us today. Ms. Martha, go ahead and tell them a little bit about you and what you do and where you're logging in from.
All right, I'm Danielle MacArthur logging in from beautiful Birmingham, Alabama. I am a small business entrepreneurship coach. I specialize in working with those people that are taking that leap of faith onto the better side of things and helping them form that structure, solve any problems, start knocking down barriers for them so they can build a great business.
Excellent. Miss
Not the
Sheila,
B
tell
to
me you.
B, not the B to B, the beautiful Birmingham.
Beautiful Birmingham, Alabama. Come on down.
I am Sheila Little, and I am from Michigan, Saginaw, Michigan, and I am a synergy coach. So what that is that I provide individuals with coaching, um, mindset coaching, consulting on their problems, and a little bit of therapeutic healing to help to heal some spaces that they may be emotionally stuck or have some emotional regulation issues. So my main focus is just helping people learn emotional intelligence so that they can align, advance, and accelerate in their life and business.
Emotional intelligence.
It's
Mm-hmm.
big.
That's pretty big. That's pretty big.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
this week we're gonna talk a little bit about, I guess, a little bit about that as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so who gonna be my dictionary? Get the dictionary
You
for us.
already know who's the dictionary.
All right. So look, man,
I'll be the visionary.
we're gonna dive into this thing, man. Please like, share, subscribe, guys. If you
Yes.
could, share it to a couple of different groups. Let's see if we get these numbers up to date. But here's the first one, right? What is it? Entrepreneur mindset. So what's the definition of that? Pull up that
Well, let's
Oh,
definition.
look. Entrepreneur.
Entrepreneurial. That's deep. I'm about to say. Because you're going to
It
have to
says
combine. Okay, what we got?
that an entrepreneurial mindset is growth oriented. So, the entrepreneurial mindset is a set of skills that enable an individual, people to identify, make the most out of an opportunity, overcome, and learn from their setbacks and succeed in a variety of settings.
Hmm.
Because that can mean in corporate world as well. If you have a
Oh, absolutely. And I think that the word is entrepreneur.
nice.
So when you actually work for a company,
Yes,
it's
but treat it like
actually
a
a
business.
term. Yeah, it's actually a term called intra, INTRA, which
Mhm.
is that entrepreneur mindset, but you're inside of an corporation. So people
Hmm.
like Google and things like that, they hire entrepreneurs.
I've
Yeah.
never heard that before. That's the
Hmm.
first one for
Really.
me right there. I've
Yeah,
learned something today. Okay.
yeah.
Usually those are the people that make the jump once they reach pretty high enough. Not all the time, but
Yeah.
I've read a lot of success stories of people that started businesses, and sometimes they start with the corporate ladder climbing, and then when they get high, they realize it's just like running a business. I might as well just do this myself because
Yeah.
Yeah.
as you go
Yeah.
higher, it truly turns into you're running a very small business,
Yeah.
and you have to treat it like that.
Yeah.
You
And
have to
just
get them
talking about,
stock and all kind of stuff to keep them on the team. So
yeah.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I mean, in essence, though, even as business owners, I think you want an individual with an entrepreneurial mindset. I think that we even started to pose our marketing different, right? In the nonprofit from entrepreneurs to entrepreneurial mindset because you have professionals who have an entrepreneurial mindset that is very much as this said, that's very much looking for opportunities, trying to overcome the setbacks if that's on a project or whatever, but they're goal oriented and growth oriented, right? They're looking for growth and things like that. And I think that when we start talking about creatives, right, we think about entrepreneurs. So those are the people who have this mindset, but they want to create
Hmm.
new opportunities in the atmosphere or in create a certain impact that they feel like is not being cultivated or lifted in certain communities. And so that's where you get the entrepreneur because they see a space and then they want to create something in that space.
Yep.
What's up, Leverage? What's up with you, brother?
What's going on, brother Jay, Miss Sheila, Miss Danielle? How y'all doing this evening?
Doing
Hey,
well.
hey,
How are you?
Good day to be alive, man.
happy to see you, bro.
Yeah,
Yeah, I am blessed and happy to be here with you all. So,
man. Absolutely. So, so we talk about the entrepreneur mindset, right? We looked up the definition. So, based on the definition, would you say to have an entrepreneur mindset, that person will be a quitter?
No.
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 You couldn't possibly be. I'm gonna be honest. I always go back to Kobe, my favorite player. Um, Kobe Bryant has the optimal entrepreneurial mindset, which is I can spot my deficiencies, I can take accountability, and I can keep pushing forward in spite of the goal and not get hung up on minor, whether it's a win or a loss. I'm not getting hung up on it. I'm still focused on the end goal. So,
Yes.
nah, you couldn't possibly be a quitter and a successful entrepreneur.
Wow. Can you be an entrepreneur and not have the mindset?
Yes.
Yes.
Break that down.
So you can absolutely be an entrepreneur and have not have a entrepreneurial mindset. And I think Danielle and I talked about this. Oh, the whole cast talked about this before. The difference between an employee mindset versus an employer mindset.
Yeah.
So we have some individuals that transition from 9 to 5 that still don't have the mindset of an entrepreneur. So when things get tough, they say when things get tough, the tough get going. Is that the saying?
Yeah.
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 Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when things get tough, then the tough get going. So they will feel like, oh, they and this is why coaching is so important, right? Because
Yes.
you're actually trying to coach an entrepreneur into a entrepreneur mindset because most of them are coming from very fixed way of
Yeah.
thinking. If it's traditionally, if it's in their culture, if it's in their communities, and you're trying to liberate them from that fixed way of thinking to like a growth type of mindset and to see the opportunities that their impact is going to create in the world, to give them the inspiration, the
Yes.
motivation, the wherewithal to be able to push through that emotional stuff
Yeah.
or mental stuff
Be-
to bring their idea alive.
yeah, because a lot of those people, they know they can do something and they know that something helps, but they may not truly grasp the full everything that comes with what it means to start a business and really launch. So but some can convert, some cannot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
I,
to
So
add a
go,
twist. I
go
like to
ahead.
add a twist. Because I do agree with you all that you don't necessarily have to have the mindset to be an entrepreneur. Um, but even I'll tell you what I've seen from a successful space, what that looks like, because I think that's a true defining factor is the people that I've usually seen that have been entrepreneurs but don't necessarily have the mindset are probably like franchise owners.
Yes.
Um, you're still able to own the business, and technically you're more of an investor than anything, but it's ownership. You are the entrepreneur. This is your business, the owner of this business. But there are situations where they're like absentee ownership, where you still it's still your business, you're still collecting the profit, but maybe you're not the person who's geared, you don't have the MBA, you can't look at the overall business structure and stay on top of the tiny minute things. And to that, there are other options that I even tell people, like, hey, not everybody is meant to come up with the next Amazon.
Mm.
That's not going to be everyone's claim to fame. You may not be the next Tesla, but that doesn't mean that you can't open up various oil change check cashing spots, or I think regardless, they're different
Yeah.
business ideas that they're the model's already made. The way for you to operate and even put people in place to operate these businesses is put in place, so you can still be an entrepreneur, but the you don't have to be me or anybody on this
You don't have
that's
to be
usually
trying to
on this
reinvent the wheel.
panel that's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I have a specific thing and I'm changing the game. I'm, you know, got
Yeah.
startup seeded level and things of that nature where you're
You're gonna be
really
a
trying to,
passive
yeah,
investor in a sense, right?
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
and then
So
I think that there's a term for that though. And I think that this is where we convolute the word entrepreneur, right? So these are small business owners, right? And as a small business owner, um, that is more of a, when we think about entrepreneurship, you're really thinking
What's the
about
difference? I would definitely like to know that difference.
Yeah. So the difference between a small business owner and an entrepreneur is an innovative individual that is creating, like the Teslas and the Steve Jobs. They're creating like this new way of doing this, whatever that activity is, or they're creating a space from scratch. I'm
That's
losing that
Or
word. I'm
morphing
using
an
that word.
existing
Yeah.
idea,
So
or
so the
merging ideas.
entrepreneur
So you
is
don't think that would be the person who would own would buy into a couple of franchises that wouldn't be out? Let's say it's something that's in California, right? Some ride share was the autonomous ride share situation,
Mhm.
and somebody were to bring that out here, and this is not to cause any debate, but I'm just wondering,
Oh no,
they
it's
wouldn't
okay.
be necessarily considered an entrepreneur for
I think that's
bringing.
somewhere in between. Because now, if you're taking a franchise and then expanding it to a different area because you see a vision, I think that might be that
So it's the
lateral space
vision.
in
That's
But
the
I think we're
defining
talking about
thing.
more about small business owners, and I think that when
All
we
small.
talk about
My bad.
small business owners, you're talking about more structural things. So an entrepreneur creates small businesses, right? And I guess you could say some small businesses create entrepreneurs, but when you think about a small business owner, you are thinking about more of a process that's put in place, and that's what we're on this podcast telling entrepreneurs to, hey, take your idea, your innovation, your creativity, put a structure around it so that it can become a small business, right? And then a business now is an endeavor that is an LLC, is separate from you. If it's an S corp or something like that, that structure is different from you, and put the processes and systems in place so that it can function on its own, right? And so when we talk about small businesses, we're talking about more of processes and systems put in place, employees, multi-level. I'm the president, I have an employee. We're talking about the tier, like similar to the design that's behind your head. What is your organizational chart looks like, and all of those things. These are small business owners, right? And this is why you
Okay.
Okay, from
My
my
bad.
understanding, a small business owner is what? Is anybody who has a business under what, 500?
20,
Is it,
25
I
million.
thought, is it
Anybody
25?
at the Small Business Association
yes.
requires, it says anybody, any business, any entity, sole prop, whatever, if you make under 25 million, you're considered a
Oh,
small
under
business.
25 million, but under 500 employees,
Under
right?
500
Yeah.
Right.
employees,
So,
yes.
so 5,000. Okay, let's look the word up because I want to make sure we got it right. So let's look up entrepreneur definition. Let's see what Wes was talking about. Because I think my whole thought process is off there. So,
Yeah, I think because it's like phases where things kind of get put like labels get put on. For
Mm-hmm.
me, it's synonymous. If you start a business, you're an entrepreneur in my eyes.
that
That
was
means
my
that you're
mindset.
Right.
yeah, that's the reason why I was asking those questions, because traditionally it's like if you decided to go in business for yourself, whether you created the processes or not, you're an entrepreneur. You're not receiving, anybody who doesn't receive W-2 income for their endeavors is, in my opinion, an
You're
entrepreneur.
looking at it from like a
Yeah.
mathematical
Yeah.
standpoint. Sheila's
No,
got
If
I'm not looking at
the
it from that. I'm looking at
it,
it from a tax standpoint. Just
yeah,
at the
yeah,
end of the
that's
day,
but
but
all
that's
that's all
all
we're gonna
math.
1099, but
pay
all 1099s are not entrepreneurs, though.
That is true.
to a degree. Because at
Yeah.
the end of the day, if you're getting benefits, if someone else is paying taxes for you, that's gonna be that truly defining part. Now, whether or not you decided to get paid under, like I have clients that are like truck drivers, so they're CDL drivers, they have an LLC. So technically, they are business owners. Technically, they do their own
Business
thing.
owners.
Well, in a sense, they're entrepreneurs, whether or not they started to go start their own logistic company that drives for other people, or they're
Mm-hmm.
outsourcing their skills, to work underneath, or I guess what's the word? Not necessarily lease their services, but when you're getting paid that 1099, no one's paying taxes on you. Technically, you are considered by the government, by all the powers that be, regardless of how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing it on your own.
Yeah,
You're
you
not.
have a Schedule C. Yes, absolutely. But you are a business owner, and I think that we have to start distinguishing what's an entrepreneur from a small business owner. And there is a true distinction between an entrepreneur and a small business owner. That's just my only
You know
thing.
what this
So
reminds
But
me of?
look
To
at
put maybe look, maybe if y'all I can say something, maybe if that it almost sounds like how you could say he's the father versus tax legally he's the father, but is he involved? That's what this kind of sounds like to me, like where it's like it can blend, but then it can also be put into buckets.
okay.
So
What's the definition that you found?
Okay, so the definition that I found was a person who organizes or operates a business or businesses taking a greater than normal financial risk in order to do so.
That's
4
entrepreneur.
types.
that's
Yes.
an interesting addition into the definition.
Right.
Okay. Now put when you get
So
done,
then
look
it
up business.
says 4 types of entrepreneurs. So I also pulled up this article. An aggressive entrepreneur, which is proactive, all in, actively seeking opportunities. An innovator or a revolutionary attains growth through innovation. A conservative, very moderate use of resources, protecting existing resources and coasting. Opportunities come to them or it doesn't, right? So they're just like, hey, if I'm looking for it, I am. They're just kind of looking for opportunities and maybe dabble in this and dabble in this, but they haven't truly made that a business. So I'm not here to debate it. I just feel like an entrepreneur is a creative space, and it is about creating initiatives, right? Like it's about creating, it's about how do you bring your gift, your talent, your presence to the world. You are a small business owner, which is equitable, right? It's not any higher value, it's not any lower value. But you are a small business owner. If you bought into a franchise, you do get the same perks as an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur has a Schedule C, just like most, and maybe have an LLC. But we're talking about the difference between the creativity of the idea or the cultivating of an idea versus the investment of somebody else's.
Okay. R&D, product development, in that case, yeah. I definitely see what you mean.
Yeah.
And I can see the balance, because obviously it's never black and white. So obviously there are individuals that fall within, all the spectrum between the black and white of both of those, in my opinion. Because like you said, if I buy a franchise but I choose to market differently, I'm adding that creativity, that innovativeness to something that is already set up. So.
And what just came up in my spirit is even the federal government don't say entrepreneur, right? They say, are you a sole proprietor? Are you an LLC? Are you a S Corp? Are you a C Corp, right? Like they class or what?
Trust.
or trust. Is that what you said? Yeah. Or a trust, right? So they categorize these business owners, whether you're a small business owner, entrepreneur, innovator, investor, whatever. They're just saying, hey, do you do this as your own sole proprietorship? Are you an LLC? You know what I mean? So they don't even use the term, entrepreneur.
No, you don't get that until you get to the individual efforts of other organizations. Maybe places that offer grants. Because here's the thing, that's what kind of caught me off guard was I've seen a lot of grants for entrepreneurs, and there have been people who I know that have owned franchises, and that's really been the most entrepreneurial effort that they put, but they still, apply, and some of them even get it. So it's like I just wanted to, get a better understanding, and just in case anybody else was thinking, like, hold on, wait, what's the
I was thinking the same way. I was thinking
but
exactly
the goal of an entrepreneur is to become a small business, right? Because when you become a small business, you're actually now functioning. That business is like a baby that's walking by itself, that's know how to eat by itself, right? You have put the structures and things in place for that business to, in quote, run by itself.
Okay.
I can see both sides, because it's the same with a franchise. If you get a franchise, it does, there's only so much that runs itself. If the walls are falling down and you don't, if you don't have the sense.
Well, when I say run by itself, I'm saying that there is a system in place where you
It can be
can
repeatable.
you can hire somebody now to do the thing that you're doing. You know what
Yep,
I mean?
Yeah, I
Like
got you.
it's actually, you know, roles and
Structure. Yeah.
responsibilities and those type of things that are mapped out where you can now step away. So a serial entrepreneur, right, would be a person that creates those little small businesses all around, right? Or they in some way come in. So Johnny, I see your business. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I really like what you're doing. And I'm coming in to help you innovate this process in some type of way, shape, or form so that you can now have a structure or whatever. And I may now get like a return on my investment. So I may not charge you, but I may want a percentage of, you know, your capital afterwards, or I may want some of your shares or something
Oh
like
yeah.
that. And then I'm gonna come in to your business as an entrepreneur, as an innovator, to come in and say, okay, let's look at this. Let's look at your structures. Hey, I think you should probably think about doing this and think about doing that. So it's more of an innovative, creative type of approach to businesses.
yeah. Okay, man. I think we got a good lesson here, man. So I'm gonna still have to look both of them up, put them side by side, so I can make sure I get my head around it. That's how I operate. So I had never heard that before. So I think I've learned something there. So I definitely apply it for sure. So all right. So the next one here, man, is okay. So we're talking about entrepreneur mindset, right? So
Mhm.
one of the key thing is when you have that, you got to have this, or do you not have to have this?
Oh, you have to.
Better have that.
You, you,
Yeah,
you you
definitely.
have to. You gotta have work ethic if you work a job.
Yeah.
Okay.
You gotta have work ethic if you want to eat. If you want,
Yeah.
yeah. And I'm only speaking for the men because they say a man that don't work don't eat.
Don't
So
do. But I've
yeah.
seen people get out here, man, who are trying to be entrepreneurs or business owners who don't have work ethic. They don't
Mhm.
have it. You know what I'm saying? You can see them at their job, right? They're just doing just enough not to get fired. And then they try to get a little business on the side and they're doing just enough to say that they got something going on the side, right? It's just kind of floating around before you know it, it's gone.
Mhm.
Work ethic is key, man. You don't have that.
Yeah.
You might as well just stay doing what you're doing, man.
Yeah.
You're going to work.
Because
Yeah.
it's
Well,
it's
I
all
guess.
self-driven too. Yeah, you have to. At that point, it's self-reliant. So the
Mhm.
only one that's responsible for you is you, and that's a lot of pressure to a lot of folks.
Yeah. So then again, I'm going to say this. Yes, do I feel like people need work ethic? But I think as entrepreneurs, we actually need business acumen, right? A level of understanding of what it is to run a business and what it is for you as that business owner. What do you truly represent? Because I think that we all have a level of ethics, right? That we partake in, and we have a level of work ethic. But I think where we feel it as entrepreneurs is that sometimes we don't have business acumen. So we don't understand the fullness of the responsibility. So I can get to work on time. That's very ethical, right? But I don't have business acumen enough to understand just because you get here on time, you're not answering the phones though. You know what I mean? So
I
like,
think that goes into the work ethic aspect because you can't say that you have work ethic if you don't do the job. I really don't feel like somebody can say, "Oh yeah, I have." It could. I completely agree when it comes to the business acumen part, but then there's a difference between knowing and doing to the point to where like, hey, you can know that the phones need to be answered. You can know that you need to contact these clients or whatever. You can know that all day long, but if you aren't picking up the phone, you aren't addressing, replying to emails, you aren't actively looking to build. I don't, and that varies on different spaces. Some people it may be looking for another event to go do a pop-up shop at. For some people, it may be doing a speaking occasion. But if you're not doing the work and you're not putting, I guess the biggest thing, effort wise, that's why I think at work ethic, it is to me, it means effort. How much
mhm,
effort are you literally putting into this on a day-to-day basis? Not just for the showmanship part of it where you can say, "Oh yeah, I got this, I got that." But when you look at what needs to be done, the people
mhm,
who like I remember it was a guy who I went to a wing stop. I forgot where it was, but the guy who actually owned the wing stop was working there. Was was in the back sweeping, tossing chicken doing everything that needed to happen. And that
Called
was
off that day, man.
that's what I said. Like that in my mind was like, wow, this guy has no limit as to what, as long as it needs to be done and whoever needs to get it done. Like to that part, as far as running a business or being an entrepreneur, yeah, you can't skate without doing the work. I don't think that there's any way possible for you to not do the work and still succeed.
Mhm.
And anybody
And
who
the, and,
have that
And
as
it's
well.
a hybrid though, because you
yeah,
can be
because
doing a
the
bunch of
acumen
stuff,
is
but
knowing what work
yeah.
to do.
Yeah,
and I
that's what
think
I
a
was gonna
lot of
say.
our business owners don't know the work that needs to be done
They doing a
in a
lot of work.
business. So they
Busy
may
work.
rationalize why
Busy
that
work.
phone out there ringing, because I know a lot of people that got work ethic, hella work ethic, 16, 18 hours, in their entrepreneur endeavors, but they don't have the business acumen to even know how to use this 16 hours in a way that's going to move your business forward, right? They're literally focused on one or two things or working in the business and not really on the business. So I do feel like work ethic is very important, to entrepreneurship, but I think that you also have to have a level of business acumen to really understand the fullness of, your responsibility, because, as a business owner, that person in Wingstop, if I walked in there and I saw the owner sweeping the floor and cooking the chicken, and I'm like, hey, you need to talk to somebody, because why are you using your time to do all of these things? Where's your employees?
We did ask, and like Danielle pointed out, somebody didn't show up to work.
Look, I already know
Somebody didn't show up. This is a guy in retirement.
Yeah,
Of course,
okay.
I'm
Because that would be
fine
my
with it.
question. Like, okay, wait a minute. How are you the owner and you sweeping the floor? It's not that that's
yeah,
big,
but
not that is below you, but I mean, as the owner, that's better use of your time.
I mean, I
I'm
say
a bit
I agree,
respectful
but
though from an
at a
employee.
certain point in time, it goes. What is that? What's that show? The Undercover Boss thing.
Yeah.
Y'all saying
Mhm.
Undercover Boss,
Yeah.
and for some reason, and mom, I feel like that's so transformative when these high level executives get brought down, and you see what's the nitty gritty that requires to go on. And this, like I
Mhm.
said, I'm not going to take, because you're right. Knowing what to do is the first step, or else you're going to be running
yeah,
around in circles. But once you know what needs to be done,
Mhm.
if you're going to put yourself in that business where you're going to say, this is all on me, my bills are going to get paid by my work and my effort, then
Mhm.
you have to do what needs to be done, even if it ain't, if even if it's somebody else's job. I think that's the hardest part
Yeah.
for a lot of entrepreneurs, is realizing
yeah,
like, oh, I'm this business owner. I run this. This should be somebody else. But it's like, no,
Yeah.
when something needs to be done, you're the one that's going to be able to sell this business if it gets profitable and things move on. So I think that part of it just definitely needs to be highlighted. You have to do the work.
Well,
Period.
absolutely.
Period, man.
period.
You wear all the hats, really, right?
Oh,
Even
that's
if you
not
got to
smart.
feel, but what I'm
I
saying
was
And
about to
is,
that's
say,
where the
even
business
you
acumen come
got
in,
them.
because, and this is why I guess I'm saying this, because I do feel like a lot of entrepreneurs have a hustle mindset. Like, oh, you got to wear all the hats, you got to do all of this stuff. And they end up with a strong work ethic, doing everything, but then they get burnt out. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And it's like, man, you had a great idea and a great product and great solutions to offer this world, but you're burnt out now. And now it's like, I don't even want to do that. So I think that's a mindset that we really have to start shaking from entrepreneurs. Like, yes, do you need to know everything that's being done? And like
okay,
Johnny
that's what I
said,
meant.
Yes,
That's what I meant.
yes. You need to
like
be
like
aware,
Johnny
and
said,
maybe
do
in the
you step
beginning.
in when you need to
Ooh,
step
Yeah.
in?
I
But
got something.
ultimately, you have to learn how to delegate
Delegate is very important.
some of
I
these
think that
Trust and
responsibilities.
That's what I
delegate.
meant.
that goes into work ethic. So I
Yeah,
think
and that's a
that
good
like
work.
going into
Yeah.
what we were saying, that transition between being just an entrepreneur to being an entrepreneur and a business owner,
Yeah.
and that creating of systems, I
Yeah.
think that goes, it's a huge part of it, because you can't say that you want to start an organization, right? A company or whatever is an organization. So there's organized activity that's going on. And if you haven't developed any systems, right, even if it's as small as like my social media posting, you know, captions need to be wrote, a graphic needs to be made, a video needs to be recorded, everything needs to be put together. those different if I think as part of the work ethic aspect of, you have to oversee, and this ties into the acumen part, but you have to oversee and put in the work to see what needs to be done. I think it goes back to that 80-20 rule. 80% of your results are going to be based off of 20% of the work you put in. So if you don't look to analyze and see, okay, well, what is this 80%? Where is this 20%? Where is that? And I think that goes into, like you're saying, building the systems, being able to delegate tasks and bring other individuals and make it a team effort, a team sport, rather than just relying on one person's initiative. That, in a sense, when you have these goals of being, and I'm always hard on people because I believe if I can discourage you from being an entrepreneur or a business owner, then you really don't need to be one in the first place. I got that from my old pastor. He used to talk people out of wanting to go be a part of the clergy or be, go into ministry. If he could talk you out of it, you didn't need to be doing it. It wasn't a calling for you to do it in the first place. So that's, I don't mean to just be harsh on situations, but that goes into it.
Yeah, it's definitely important, man. And you have to make, like I said, once you get the system together, man, you can kind of release a little bit. You know what I'm saying? When I talk about the hats, is you got to make sure, even if you delegate to somebody else, you got a small, you got to make sure it's done, because ultimately it's all on you. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, somebody call in, you got to be willing to sweep up. You know what I'm saying? You got to do what you got to do. Now, the best thing to do, when you hire somebody, you got to make sure that they have great work ethic. You know what I'm saying? They're going to be there on time. And unfortunately, when you hire somebody,
I want to share a story, because I'm working with a client right now, business owner. They're out in New York. They own a salon, 2 women, and they own a salon. And the salon is bringing in maybe like $350,000 a year. And so there's this emotional spat that's going on, because the one owner feels like she does more than the other owner. And so I'm asking these questions. So she's like, yeah, I want to buy her out her contract. And I think this is very important, because she's like, yeah, I want to buy her out her contract because I found out this situation that happened and she didn't tell me. And so she made it very emotional. So then I said, well, give me the breakdown. So she brings in about $160,000 in revenue, and she gets like 30% of that in commission, right? And so that's like $50,000 in commission. So she's actually equity bringing a business about $110,000. So I said, okay, so how much is your business partner, bringing in? So she's like, oh, she does $110,000 in equity. I mean, in clients and profit. And so she takes home in commission about $40,000. I said, okay, so that's about $80,000 that she's bringing into revenue, every year to the company. Are you ready to release $80,000 a year in equity, right, that this woman is bringing into your company off of an emotional spat, right? And then she says, so she says, well, she wants me to buy her out for like $25,000, and I'm like, okay, but let's talk about this, right? Because you're not looking at her like an asset, right? Yeah. Because you have an emotional issue with her, versus looking at her as an asset that this woman is bringing in this company $120,000 a year. That's not a small, piece of change that she's bringing in. So then I told her about the work ethic, right? So what is the responsibilities that you feel like you're doing that she's not? Oh, I order the supplies, I do the marketing, I do the social media. Okay, make that a position, right? Mm-hmm. When you make that position, how much do you think that, how much time? She's like about 10 to 15 hours a week. Okay. How much do you think that person would get paid if you hired them in? Oh, about $30,000. All right. Make it a position and then hire yourself to do it. So now you're getting paid the $30,000, right? You're getting paid your commission, right? And at the end, you're doing profit sharing. And that was her issue. At the end of the year, we have to profit share. And I feel like we're getting 50% of the profits, but she's not doing as much. Well, now you're getting paid for your time, Yeah. Now we can talk about the spat that you have about with your business partner in the future. The next thing was get an attorney and update your system. If she's supposed to work 3 days a week, how much does that generate, right? Like, so if it's 8 people, average of $200, that's $1,600 a day, whatever, right? Let's do the numbers. Put it in agreement that this is what she's required to do,
Bare
and
minimum.
have a stipulation in that agreement that if she doesn't meet this, then it's a breach of contract, right? Then if she has certain responsibilities, but see, you can't go as a business partner and complain about your business partner and want to buy them out when you never held her accountable to the things that needs to be done. You go in and do them, and now you mad and you want to kick her off the boat. No. And the fact is, she got she got just as much leverage in your company because she's bringing $80,000 a year to the company,
Put things in a
right?
big picture.
But this was an issue of work ethic. She just didn't feel like her, from what she felt like, her business partner wasn't carrying her weight. Okay, but if you're not holding her accountable to that, then she's not going to carry it. But you also missing this big picture that she's bringing in $120,000 in revenue.
That's what I was gonna say, which is the simple fact. Like it, I hate to say it all goes back to numbers, but at the
It
end of the
does.
day, a lot of times your feelings really don't matter. You can hate your boss at your job. They can get on your nerves, but you still gonna have to pay your rent or your mortgage at the end of the month, at the end of the day. So in that situation, like you just pointed out, yeah, that's one of those spots where you have to take like you said, a step back, and you need to analyze, like, what are you doing this for? You don't
Yeah.
have a business, and I'll go back to it. You don't have a business to showcase and show off for other people. That's
Amen.
not the point. The point was for you to feed yourself and live the life that you wanted to live.
You
Yeah.
get out your emotions.
Yeah, and get
Yeah.
out your emotions. And this is why I say a big part of owning a business, having work ethic, holding people accountable, building the structures is emotional. And sometimes my clients, they just don't know how to see, no, this is a very emotional decision because she doesn't do anything. All she does is come here. If she doesn't have any clients, she doesn't come to the shop. Okay, she don't have clients. But when she has clients, she is showing you she's performing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and really getting her to manage her emotions about this and really having her set up a system to hold her business
Yeah.
partner accountable to the work that needs to be done. And if you can't do this, then we're going to hire somebody, and that's going to come out of our profit sharing, right? And actually, it's going to come to me as a check as the executive operations officer because I'm doing the work anyway.
Facts.
And that's funny because I got to tie it back to my corporate roots. That's actually something certain companies do, where everybody, when you start to reach higher levels, people think, oh, they could just fire you at any day. Not if they don't want to get sued, because we live in a very litigious country. Everybody loves suing people, so corporate companies have to protect themselves. So they do exactly what Sheila did. They'll lay out a ridiculous task list of things that they know you can't do, but they're going to communicate all of these things, and this is what you have to do in order to keep your job. If you fail to do that, you will lose your job. So I like that example, Sheila, because it applies to both sides.
Yeah, yeah. And just holding people accountable and then having a clear
Hold yourself
expectation of
accountable. Yes.
what is it that you're responsible about for. You know what I mean? And now I have something from the attorney that me and you agreed to, and now I can take you to court for a breach of contract and buy you out, or you have to walk away, or whatever those terms is. But you can't go off of understanding when y'all was best friends 9 years ago, and the understanding was that we were going to,
Verbally.
you know,
Because I think the biggest thing is exactly what you said. What's the plan?
Yeah.
Because when you react from an emotional space, you don't consider the bigger picture. So it's like, okay, exactly what you said.
Didn't we
Boom.
talk
Okay, we
about
kick her out. Now who you getting to fill in? Are you
yeah.
gonna work harder now to make
Right.
up for this? Like,
Yeah.
what's the
I
plan?
think see we often talked about, and it always comes up, business plans and operation agreements.
Mhm.
Business plans. See, this is one of those times to where a properly structured operation agreement, it defines and it lays out what are the expectations for everyone involved in this business. So now you have those you got to put it in writing.
Yeah.
I agree wholeheartedly. If you can't do it at the time of the inception of the business, the earlier the better, because the
Yeah.
last thing you want to do is run into a problem like Sheila just mentioned, and now you're emotional, and it's hard for you to separate how you feel versus what actually is.
Mhm.
And then how do you navigate through that, so that way when you get back to that point where you're not emotionally upset anymore and you come down off of that, you realize, oh, I didn't just blow my business up. Oh, I didn't
Right,
just put my foot in my mouth.
right,
Because
right. And with her, it most like a lot of people. And I told her, listen, you ain't just overworking yourself in this business. That's probably what you do in your life. So you may have relationships outside of this business where you are known to do everything, and you're complaining about the lack of value that people see in you, and that how much work you got to do, and how everybody's dependent on you. So this just may be your narrative. So we can't play the victim to your business partner in this situation when this is a personality trait of yours.
Nice. We're gonna cut deep.
Yeah,
and look, y'all know about them college. Most of this is behaviors that are really established and put in cemented in college. Where I'm pretty sure anybody who's been that one person that worked on that group project.
Mm-hmm. And other people who didn't, and they was mad
Me?
because I was the one that
Me?
probably didn't. I was the one that probably came in
Look,
like,
and I was the one. Would y'all come on? Let's just do it and get it done. I was that person.
and wanted to get it done 5 days early. Listen, they
Maybe
said
not
it
that
was due to
person.
Friday. It's
I'm gonna
Monday.
get it
Why
done
are
the
you
day
calling
before.
me?
The morning of.
All
But
right.
you can't be mad. I think the key point is exactly what Sheila said. If you're that person, you can't be mad, because I'm a half card carrying member of one of those type of people. And it's like when something goes left or you get overwhelmed, only person I can be mad at is myself, because I took on way too much. You can't take it out on others. And that's where that emotional intelligence comes up, and that being able to manage your emotions and step back and know, okay, this is not the time where I need to be doing everything. This is when I need help. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So, so we talked a little bit about the entrepreneur mindset, right? All the way down to the work ethic, right? So, and we talking a lot of talking about new entrepreneurs or business owners. So, I thought this was important here. Are you willing to become unpopular?
I
Yes, I see
smiled
some
over
smiles,
Thank-
man. I see some
And
smiles.
We've grown. Popular
I
don't mean nothing.
think before we go into that, I want to just one thing I probably want to say just about that is, what is it like? You could go. I think somebody, I saw a post where it said you could find a quarter from like 1905, and to everybody else is worth 25 cents.
No,
But
it's not.
until you go around a group of coin collectors
Yeah.
that actually, and it's just a whole illusion,
Yeah.
just a metaphor for going where you find value. And I
Yes.
think a lot of people who do end up being unpopular, you're in the wrong space.
Amen.
I was an audio engineer who, I had worked in finance and decided, hey, let me start bringing the financial side of things I know into this spectrum. And to a lot of people who were in the entertainment industry, I was unpopular, and it was real squarish. And I was like, all right, well, cool. Let me go shift to who else. I thought that these were just my people. Let me bring another side of myself to this area. But it wasn't until it's like, all right, let's go to other net. I met Jay on a call. I think it was a Saturday. The bird dogging class, right? It was a period of time I was just going through a bunch of different events. Just let me network, let me get around, just trying to be around people who value what I had to say in my presence. So that unpopular thing, if you do feel like you're unpopular, you're around the wrong people.
Look, nerds unite. Every nerd has been through that.
So I have a different I have a different kind of a thing. So I do think there's what Johnny is talking about, but I feel like I am the unpopular entrepreneur. Just my field is not one that is the one that everybody is running to. The things that I talk about is not everything that people want to talk about. It's the unpopular conversation when we start talking about emotional intelligence and healing and, taking accountability for your actions, right? Because most of the population is pointing the finger and saying, no, he did it. He broke up with me. He lied to me. He cheated on me. No, the community just don't support Black businesses. No, as a woman, it's this whole big thing about, Black women in business and this whole big thing. So I feel like a part of me coming in and saying, nope, you know, you need to be the change you want to see in the world and take accountability for the space that you're in, and then create the person that you want to be. And let's see how we're going to get there. And on the way, we're going to heal some of this, you know, stuff. I think that it's very unpopular. You know, it's an unpopular conversation. It's a conversation that's, you know, and I think the population that I'm targeting in it to, which is people who look like me, it's very unpopular. And it's the kind of conversations that we have in the corner, but we definitely not gonna have this, you know, out in public. And that's one of the reasons why we started Elevating Life, to kind of start this conversation about, and this is more than just about therapy. And I think that's the other unpopular thing. I am a therapist of 20 years, but I think therapy is like the doctor. Mm-hmm. Therapy, you got cut, the doctor come in and stitch you up, right? Or you break a leg. I'm used to break the leg. So you break your leg, the doctor come in, put the leg together, say, hey, you broke your leg, you broke your femur, we're going to put it together and cast it, right? But you didn't walk on that leg for 6 weeks. There is a process after you leave the doctor where you have to go to the physical therapist and learn how to use that leg again. And for me, therapy don't teach you how to sometimes use that leg again. It just teaches you about how the leg broke and how to heal the leg. But a lot of people get stuck because now I want to go use this leg again. And now I'm triggered, or I don't really know, right, what to do. And then that's where I say I'm the bridge, right? I'm like the physical therapist of therapy. You come to me after you go to therapy, and then we design your life and teach you how to move forward. And that's where that kind of coaching and consulting part comes in.
I still believe you're just not in the right places, because I'm here to. It's some people, and I think it just depends on which side of it. The organization I work with, Thrive Wealth Solutions, out in California. It's a group of people who, you know, there are a lot of people predominantly look like us, but they would definitely benefit from it. One of the things I think I mentioned this the first time we spoke, and you had told me more about what you do. I go back to one of the shows I like, Billions. And it's about a hedge fund, but one of the main characters in the hedge fund is a therapist. And it highlighted how a lot of these people who are day traders or work for these hedge funds, they literally need the type of coaching that you provide. The walking through, all right, I'm not performing well because what's going on? I feel something. What just happened? There's an emotional block. I went through this. So I still say, nah, you ain't unpopular, Sheila. It's just these folks don't understand. And there's so many people who literally in these high performance positions, because I think that's the other part, is it sucks sometimes because we don't want to necessarily work from the top down. And that sucks because it's like, no, I really got into this business to help
the lower
people who were in my position. And that becomes like the hugest conundrum, because I'm telling you, for what I'm in, and I guess high ticket sales is what you would call it. I put I have a therapist. I have friends who are actually, you know, therapists, and I'll like, tell me about a book. I don't go ask them for personal advice or anything like that because they know me too well, I feel like. But give me some books. You know, there are so many people who are in high pressure positions that need that, and I will always go to it. For whatever it is that you do, you have to be around the people who appreciate it. And sometimes those don't be the people that you really want to help. I really want to help us, but the fact is when I go
all of us on this call really want to help.
Look, when I get to talking about life insurance, right, and I get to talking about trust and taxes and things like that, it is extremely unpopular. But then I realize when I go to certain groups, that's why I was like, man, I'm not even gonna go into the ups and downs, or really the downs that happened before I started plugging in with people like Jay or Jarrell, or just, you know, the people through Mid City, this Danielle, it's so many people that just don't appreciate it. And you know what you have is far from it. It is needed. If anybody needs it, we need it. Okay.
I believe that. I'm just saying that I feel like it's unpopular. So that's not a conversation. It is one of those things where it's like, what is the problem? And it's like, hey, I can tell you, you know.
And trust me,
But
and
like you said,
yeah,
you said, those high performing women, that is definitely a part of my niche population, right? Working with high performers because they're so intelligent that they can disconnect emotionally and they're trying to think their way through an emotional situation, which causes a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, a lot of up all night. And really, you just got to feel this emotion. Let's get in our bodies, right? And kind of put some emotions to this situation. And it could be some backed up stuff.
Yeah.
But
But I agree with you, Johnny. I am basking on that moment right now where I could sit around people, right, that we can have a healthy conversation about it and really build up on, right, the conversation around not mental health, but health and well-being. And what does that look like, right? Because I think those are two different conversations in two different directions.
Yes.
Go ahead, Danielle. You wanted to add something?
No. I always like to counter a question with a question. What is popular? Like, I mean, because I think, if we flip it, because I like Johnny came with the unpopular from a personal standpoint, and Sheila came from an unpopular from an industry standpoint. I think both of those are kind of like very two unique expressions because, yes, if you're caught up and worried about being popular or chasing, you want to be Instagram famous or social media famous and all that other stuff, like, yes. And if you don't get there, those are types of people that I have no idea how they work. So
just the question,
being in the unpopular space.
So let's just look at it from like this. A lot of times popularity does equate to sales, or it does equate to prospect, your prospects. So if you have, that's why PR is so crucial now, probably more than it ever was. You're a bad narrative, a negative narrative about you, your company could literally set you back. So I think that's probably why so many people get, at least where I was coming from, because I wanted to market when I started off in a certain space, market to a group of people where my conversation was not, like Sheila said, a popular topic. And so then that goes into the discouraging part of, God, I'm trying to help people, man. I'm trying to, what was going on? I'm giving this information away. People don't see it. And then it just goes to, that's not your tribe. That's not your.
I absolutely agree with that.
Because that's what I was just about to say, because you could be unpopular in one space. Look, I go to Comic-Cons. There are people that don't even know what a Comic-Con is, but when you go, if that's your space, that's your culture, you're geeked in that space. Oh, that's that one artist. So I think the moral of this is you have to find your tribe that supports you.
But how many of us, and I think you made a point, Danielle, about being unpopular, because I think that if you grew up in Saginaw, Jay know, where everybody went to the plant, right? So you got a job at GM, and now we're like a housing.
We're from Ohio, so we definitely understand that.
Okay, so
I'm from Dayton. She's from Cleveland, so we right by you. We understand it wholeheartedly.
So the unpopular thing would be to not accept that, that what was it called, Jay? Like the thing that they gave you, and not work for the plant, right? And go off and have your own business. That's the unpopular thing. So on a very minute level, sometimes just choosing to be an entrepreneur is the unpopular thing, right? Because you are treading like this territory, unfamiliar spaces. So for me as a therapist, especially as an educated Black woman who had the ability to go and be a director at a nonprofit as a licensed master of social work with 20 years, like, why would you walk away from the security of working at a college and the security of, getting a great job to start your own business? Like, where they do that at, right? That was a very much, and what you go to college for? Why did you even do that? And so that was very much the unpopular decision that was made amongst my peers, amongst my family, and sometimes in the community.
But that was the point I wanted to make too, about just being an entrepreneur or business owner, man, is unpopular. Everybody's going left and you go right, man. They want to know what's going on. You're going against the grain.
You better go against the grain and find your other
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
cool.
try. But back to Johnny said, then you got to meet then, along the way, you just start to meet people
Try.
that are entrepreneurs. And now here I go on the Small Business Podcast talking to entrepreneurs that, done it.
I want to listen to
And
you.
we hidden in open view too.
Yeah.
Open your eyes, right?
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs are everywhere. But we may not be the loudest person in the room or whatever the case is. So a lot of people don't even know that you are an entrepreneur if you don't get out there with it or whatever the case is, right? You may just be selling marbles, right? You got your little hustle on the side doing your thing or whatever the case is. So, but to try to talk to somebody who has a 9-to-5, who's grew up around 9-to-5 workers all their life, they don't even understand that. You mean you going to work, you gonna stay here and you gonna do what again? It could be a lot of arguing with your spouse too. You might have a spouse that don't understand that, man. So if you be an entrepreneur, be prepared to what it say, to be very unpopular.
I know about the whole arguing with your spouse. I didn't have a spouse, but I did have my kid's father. He just couldn't understand. Like, go get a job, and I'm like, yeah, but I can do that.
I'm about to say, I know Johnny knows. My homie brought up the income cap list. So,
so
working for somebody else, you can only make so much.
There was a post. It was a post that one of my associates, my partners, posted, and it said, "Would you rather get $10,000 a month and not have any obligation for it, or $100,000 a month, but you have to work Monday through Friday, 12 hours a day?" And so here's the thing: if depending on how you answer that question, will let me know whether or not you need to be an entrepreneur or you need to start your own business. Because if your answer is the $100,000, then I'm probably going to say maybe you need to just stick with the day job because you care more about security rather than uncapped income potential, the amount of time and freedom that you would be able to experience, and the fact that you could either cap yourself at 120 or 1.2 million, 1.2 million, or you could take that 120,000 and invest that. Regardless, it could be funds for starting another business, it could be investment in a property, it could be so many different things. But that mindset, what is the time value of money? I think a lot of people need to read the 4-Hour Work Week. I think that would change. If you're watching this now and you want to be an entrepreneur, just read the 4-Hour Work Week as one of the aforementioned books, because your time is more valuable than money.
Yes.
Your time, it could be two people. One person could earn $500,000 a year, but they have to work 12 hours a day. They don't get the time to enjoy it, to experience it, versus the person who may only make a couple thousand, maybe significantly less, but if they have more time to go visit family, live a more full, like Sheila was saying, that healthy, the health and wealth aspect, you making healthy decisions with your life, surrounding yourself with family and people who love you, those people typically live longer.
The longevity is there, right? The fulfillment, the purpose, the relationships, definitely the satisfaction. I just say the fullness of life. Like, I think that freedom provides you with a fullness of life that you aspire for as a working individual. My kid's father is like a supervisor, something like in GM at the Corvette plant, and he's working like 12-hour days, and my son plays football, 12th grade year. And sometimes it's very heartbreaking because I know he wants to be here watching his son, in his 12th grade year, but he can't because he's exchanging his time, right, for money. And now he's missing out on, this experience with his son. And some people make that trade-off consciously, but I definitely feel like if you gave him a choice, right, what would you rather be? I can guarantee you he'll choose his sons every day, but realistically, he's a realistic person. Realistically, I got to go get a job, as a realist, and I think he's slowly breaking that mold, but he grew up in a GM family. That's what they did. They worked, they provided, very much a provider, and so it's just like, but I wish you was here because
mine, Sheila,
they want you here.
You just trigger me because I come from a manufacturing background, and it's fun times. I got sick of taking pictures in my work shirts.
Mm.
Like, I went back and looked all of my son's events, everything. I got my work shirt on. And it was just like, I mean, now obviously I could have consciously changed, but I was in those situations. I was, supervisor and a manager. I got to hurry up and go run out and hope nobody bothers me so I can do this thing if I can do this thing at all. There are certain days I can't do anything because we have to do all this, blah, blah, blah. And I feel like everybody has to reach their own point, because this can mean either potentially switching a career or starting that jump into going off on your own.
And know your value system, because here's the thing: if you're not aligned with the things that you feel like is valuable to you, it's going to be like out the window anyway. And I think that a lot of people who are committed to working 12-hour days, 7 days a week, it's directly aligned with their value system at the time. If their value system is making money, if their value system is protecting their family, and so they're reaping their reward, right? Because they're in line with their values. But if your value system is based around time and freedom and autonomy, and all your time is being captured 12 hours a day, then you're going to be in dis-ease, and you're going to be feeling like something has to change in my life because this money ain't worth it.
Yeah, because that's what happened to me. I developed, my hypertension kicked in, having stress headaches and all this stuff. And it's like, you're going to kill yourself for some money?
Yeah.
Like, when look, we talked about good stress yesterday. Like, you gonna kill yourself with bad stress, or you gonna pursue something that's good stress that challenges you, but in a good and productive way that promotes your growth and not the detriment of your health.
And I say that to say, because I wanted to add that value system, because I do feel like when my kid's father buy my son shoes or buy his little stuff for football and stuff, he feels good about that. Right. Yeah. Like, when he watches his own video, he's like, yeah, I got him his shoes. I took care of everything. Like, that is a fulfilling feeling for him. So to our audience that are working, you just got to know what your values are. And if if you're not in alignment with the things that you value, for me, my number one value is autonomy. I like my freedom. Right. I'm an Aquarius. And it is just something about freedom that it's like in my DNA, it's in my bones. And so when I had a job, I felt like, okay, y'all got me here for 8 hours. Do y'all know what I could be doing in 8 hours? Like, I can't believe that I'm sitting here. I don't see nobody. I could be seeing 3 clients right now. Like, my mind used to just go about all the possibilities of what I could be doing with that time. And then y'all want me here from 7:55 to 5:10. It's just like, I can't do that.
And it's funny you say it like that, because when you come from nothing, that amazes you, because that's how I felt when I first got a job, because I grew up poor. And my first thought, I said, y'all just gonna pay me just to be here? Word? That's what's up. Because if you're not taught that, then you think that's fascinating until they slowly start to my favorite new analogy is the whole boiling a frog. It slowly turns the degree up each year. It starts to get more piled on, and you're getting stretched thinner and thinner and thinner. And at what point do you hop out the pot? When you realize, like, who turned the heat up? I remember being actively geeked when I was very young, where it's like, so I just got to come in and do like bare minimum work and you pay me? I thought that was fascinating.
But that's where, I think for most people who especially take the plunge into entrepreneurship or owning a business, you start to realize that, man, I'm worth more.
Yes.
And I think that dogmatic thinking really lives within our community, because I understand what you said when you're like, all right, my son's father, whenever he buys them things, it is. That's a gratifying feeling. But then I remember I was listening. I don't think y'all seen that TD Jakes post where he's like, if a man is in the house, then he's da 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 da, and that's insane to me, because I literally, like, I believe, and it's just me. I don't believe that any man should be held by any other man's regulations and rules of what he believes that it. Now,
Yes,
there's
that
certain
is.
things, you know, of course, don't put your hands on a woman, take care of your responsibilities. Those things just common denominator go without being said. But the ability to think for yourself, to realize, man, I'm worth a little bit more. And those people that get to that point, Danielle, Sheila, myself, we start to realize, like, hold on.
Hold on, the
If
math
I
ain't
really
matching.
look, I worked for a very prominent insurance company, and I asked them for a certain amount, and I did not get that. But instead, I got, hey, take care of the team
Man.
emails, or help train this
But
person,
if
or
you do a
help
little
them.
more work, I might think about maybe giving you a percentage of what you just asked for.
And I was faced with the decision between that, staying there, and going back into the field and having one case that would have paid me about half of what they were going to pay me
Okay.
annually.
Mhm.
And it's not until you really start realizing, like, man, now of course there's a lot more hard work that went into that.
Yes.
There's the tremendous amount of more work that goes into it, but it's like, all right, you have to take the reins. You have to grab hold of your life and realize nobody else is going to make a decision for you. And if they do, chances are it's not going to be in your favor.
Mhm.
Yes.
It's not. That's just the unfortunate part. You're going to have to think for yourself. Everybody on this call comes from a family whose uncles, aunties, cousins, whoever worked at GM, Delphi, whoever it is.
LTV.
Port
LTV.
iron.
For you
Mhm.
know, everybody on this call, and ironically, everyone on this call is doing something in their own lane and in their own
Mhm.
space. So just to show you that, you know, you don't have, for anybody listening, you don't have to listen to or follow what your family's footsteps are. You don't
Mhm.
have to follow, if it means like, hey, I want to open up an ice cream parlor because I just have a passion for ice cream. I like ice cream.
Do
Then
that.
do it.
Mhm.
Open you up a couple Dippin' Dot stands. Do it.
Mhm.
Do
So
it.
this something just came up in my spirit when you said that, because I think everybody on this call had a family member that worked at the plant and was considered the rich family member, or maybe two. But we also had the family member, everybody on this call probably also had the family member that didn't work, right? That didn't have the income and saw the stress that
Ostracized.
the family member who made the money had to go through and provide for the entire family, or always being asked for things. And I want our individuals to know that a lot of times we don't have a fear of failure that can create a fear of success, because
Yes.
we don't want to be that family member. And so a lot of times we will self-sabotage ourselves and not put us ourselves in positions where we can be the go-to or have the income, because we don't want to deal with the crabs that's coming for, hey, you owe me this, or you
And
want
they
that, or you
coming.
want that. And so we don't want to deal with the level of responsibility that will come with, because I think the Bible said, to whom much is given, much is required. And sometimes we don't want to deal with that requirement. And I just want you guys to know that that's a learned behavior too, because you can create boundaries, right? You don't have to be the individual like you saw your aunt or your dad or your mom being and taking care of the whole family. You can actually create boundaries around your life where you can say no.
And it's a
Move 700 miles away to get away.
true.
I'm in Texas right now. Hey,
I'll say I'm in
I'm in
Alabama, baby.
I'm in Texas, boy. I man, say I love my family. If anybody in Dayton is listening, I love you.
I love
Mhm.
y'all too.
Very
But they
important.
got Cash App. They got Cash
No,
App now.
And
So
I got the silent, that little bell with the line through it. I get
mhm.
the,
But I think so. Johnny does the same, coming from Ohio, same way. It cuts out a lot of the chatter when you move away, though. When they
yeah.
know you're not so close, that was one of
Mhm.
the
They
most
ain't just
freeing
stopping
things.
by.
But of course, that's not for everybody. But for me, that was that let me know who was on my side and who needed to be cut out
And
when I moved to Alabama. Because it was like, now I know who my friends are, and it helps with some of that. Obviously, that's not the option for everybody,
Mhm.
but when
yeah.
you acknowledge that and see, oh man, I'm becoming that person. And I struggled with the whole boundary setting at that time, but I left for other reasons. But when I did leave, I realized like, oh, I'm getting a lot less phone calls now, ain't I?
Mhm.
You notice your
Hmm.
line don't get hit too often, and
Mhm.
that in a sense actually helps out when you talk about creating those barriers, because for me, now at first this was a very vindictive mindset I had, and I grew out of it. But then at the same time, I realized that there was some truth in those feelings where, nah, you haven't reached out. You ain't called to check on my kids. I got 3 babies. You ain't called to check on none of them. You ain't said happy birthday. Had they started kindergarten, fourth grade,
Mhm.
whatever the case. I have gotten none of this. So on the flip side of it, once you see me, if you hear from my mama, I'm up. If you see, oh, John, y'all went on vacation. Hey, what's going on? I may be able to help you get a job, offer you an opportunity in that sense, help you make some money, teach you how to fish. But
Mhm.
it's like you said, you don't have to be that person. You
You
don't
don't
have
have
to
to be.
follow those dogmatic things, because a lot of times, and I had to grow out of this. Once I progressed more into the financial space, at one point in time, I was upset, like, why wasn't I taught this? Why wasn't I
Yes.
taught this? And then you have to realize that the people that raised you operated on the level of knowledge that they had.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So if
You
you
only
want,
know what you know until you know something different.
Amen.
exactly. And a lot of times we have to be the change that we really want to see all the
Yeah.
time, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. A lot of good information, man. But listen, no is a complete sentence too. Just keep that in mind. Right?
Mhm.
Don't need no explanation, none of that stuff.
Don't need no
Mhm.
explanation.
It's power in
And you
numbers.
can put different a period, an exclamation point.
Exclamation point.
Yeah, like
Hey, you can go in pretty
absolutely.
much any language in the
Yeah.
world and
Yeah.
No,
no.
No
It's
means
gonna be
no.
that's next to
from
universe. That's pretty
from
much as close as you're
no
gonna get to
to no.
universal.
And then KNOW. Know that I don't care how you feel about me.
No,
Right.
she said, "No, that I don't care how you
Correct.
feel."
Please. Let's know that. All
Yes,
So,
right.
ma'am. Yes.
so how important is being disciplined in business, right? How important is that? So we talked about working for a 9 to 5, right? You got to get up every morning. We set your alarm at a certain time. You got to be there. You got to clock in. You got to sit at your desk, and you got to do some work, right? At such and such time, we'll take you a break, lunchtime, such and such time. But when you're an entrepreneur, man, how important is being disciplined in business? Because the day can get up and get away from
It
There's
can.
nobody but
Again.
you. There's nobody.
Mhm.
There is no manager, looking to say, "Oh, have you met these deadlines?" or things like that. Like most of us became entrepreneurs or business owners, so that way we could have flexibility in our schedule with the underlying thought that I know I'm going to get this done, but I'd like to have the flexibility to choose when it's going to get done, as long as it happens before said deadline.
Yeah.
So if I have to go to one of my kids' events, you know, hey, Mr. Mrs. Client, I have something that came up with my kids. Hey, let's go reschedule this situation. Unless it's one of those deadline where it's like, all right, this just has to be done and we've already made a promise. But you we got into this space a lot of
Yeah.
times so that way you have the freedom, but that still comes along with, even though I had the freedom to choose when it's gonna get done,
The freedom to not do it too.
you had the
Mhm.
freedom not do it. But if I want to be successful, which I'm only, if I ever speak, it's only from the mindset of what is it going to take to be successful and get
To
the
win.
desired results.
Yeah.
You're going to have to get it done.
Man. So when I first heard this, something came up in my spirit that discipline is love. And I think that it's so important to be disciplined in your business and do see discipline as love, because the things you love are the things you care about.
Yes.
And well, the things you love should be the things you care about. And so when you take that for me, when I take that approach and I kind of look at discipline as a love, you know, then it's a relationship that I have a responsibility to and for. And so I think that being disciplined in whatever the acts are in your business is a show of, you know, your relationship to the business.
And I like Johnny's point. You have to find your balance because there's a million books and there's a million things, but if that's not how your life is set up or your obligations and whatnot, I think the biggest thing out of that is finding what works for you, the
Mm-hmm.
discipline for you, because the discipline for somebody else may not be your discipline. You
Mm-hmm.
may Like, oh, well, you got to do this, wake up at this time, do this, do this. And that may not jive with you. You may be more
Mhm.
productive at night, depending on, the business that you pick, or you may be productive in the morning or during the day. I think the important takeaway here is definitely exploring options.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, you got to find some kind of discipline.
Mhm.
I had someone, a former associate, tell me, and this always stick with me, is that in his opinion, the measure of how successful or whether he would do business with somebody is their ability to set a schedule and stick to it.
And stick to it.
If you can
Mhm.
set a schedule and say, all right, whether it's time blocking, whether it's just you write it down on a napkin, you got it on your app in your phone and an alarm or whatever the case is, if you can set a schedule and say, I have these tasks to get done, and you get done with them, and this is on a consistent basis, well, then you have what looks and smells like discipline.
Mhm.
And
I
that's
like
the only way that goals are achieved, that success is met, is by this still ties into the work ethic. So I don't mean to beat a dead horse or but at the same time,
beat it.
you have to know what needs to be done, the business
Mhm.
acumen, as Sheila stated. You have to know what needs to be done. You have to do it, and then you also have to do it even when you don't feel like doing it.
Amen.
Mhm. And you got to know when to stop doing it. And
You
I
got to know
think we
when to
also have to
delegate.
be disciplined about that. When I first started business, and when I work with my clients, I have to work with them. Again, my framework is stop it now. And a lot of times we don't know where to stop, right? So um, if if you're working and you are creating work life balance, right? Sometimes there's discipline that's required to even create that, because although you could possibly stay 12 hours, right? What is the effect of that extra 6 hours or 4 hours going to do to the other relationships in your life that you actually need so that you can be productive in your business? And so I think we have to not just have discipline about those goals, but when I say I'm gonna stop at 6, then be disciplined to stop at 6 and start back tomorrow at 10 if that's the time that you start, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs experience burnout because we're not as disciplined about when we stop doing something in entrepreneurship. We could just go and go and go and go and end up really wired and dealing with a lot of emotional distress and dis-ease from that. Can't hear you, Johnny.
I was gonna say not everybody's built like that, and that's a crucial thing just to understand about yourself. Um, if I speak, it's only because I'm speaking as a former athlete. So my way of getting through, coach said you got one more suicide, man, shut up and get it done. And that's not everybody's take on it. So not everybody would be able to take that mentality of, if I work out, I'm trying to get at least one or two more reps in. But if
Mhm.
that's not you, and let's say it's more of a spirit of anxiety.
Mhm.
That's a lot of times where, like, when I work with clients and they're too obsessed inside of their business, and to your point, they don't know when to stop. It
Mhm.
usually comes from a place of anxiety or fear, and not necessarily what would be helpful, which is I'm motivated. So if you're
Mhm.
still going because you're motivated and you're like, nah, I still got some steam in the engine, then in a lot of cases that's perfectly fine. But if it's out of fear, if it's the if I don't do this, I'm gonna fail. And you're not even in that. That's breeding that disease.
Yeah.
That worry. My mom is a cancer survivor, and most of it, she didn't smoke, she didn't drink, she didn't do any of these things, but she's stressed.
Mhm.
She's stressed and worried so much, and so much anxiety just developed that it caused her body to move adversely.
Wow.
And I think that's something that's definitely something I keep in mind. It's just like, if I'm gonna keep going, am I keeping up out of a sense of,
Obligation.
yeah, obligation, or is it motivation, or is it do I feel
I
like
like
something's
that
gonna be
perspective,
detrimental?
Johnny. I like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, because there's some people that I know that may be listening, that some people just do have that hard work, that spirit that we spoke on. The people who they may be that 12-hour day thing or whatever, that just may be what they believe in. And I always go back to, like I said, I'm a Kobe fan, die-hard Kobe fan, and that was one of the things I respected and loved about that brother so much was Nah, there's no excuses. If I got to get up at 3 in the morning to do what I need to do and make sure I'm back to see my kids off to school, and then I just need to do what I need to do, so that way I have the performance that shows, and it matches the work ethic that's put in. That's a different type of motivation that's from a grounded place. But I think a lot of times we feel like we get behind the 8 ball. um we look at somebody else who may be doing a little bit better, and they may have a completely different business or structure or things going on. And I think that does push a lot of people to feel like, nah, I don't need to stop, I got to keep going. And then they end up in that place of that sunken place.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think you're talking about intention, right? And
Yeah.
what a person intention is for their drive and their momentum and their
Yeah.
move.
The intention behind it, the emotions you feel. Back to what you were saying, the emotion behind it is, how do I feel in this moment? Am I moving out of a sense of desperation, or am I moving out of a sense of motivation?
Yeah.
And I think that once you,
Energized feeling. Yeah.
yeah, because there's times where like I'm just energized and I wake up at like 3 in the morning myself, and I'm like, man, let me bust these push-ups out the way. Let me get to reading this book. Let me cite my affirmations, check my schedule, do what I need to do. And then some days I just don't feel that. I still get up and do it, but it may be at 5:36 rather than the 3. And it's just, I know for myself, nah, today ain't the day to push it, man. Today ain't the day to
Yeah.
push it. And if you do get up and pushing it, you pushing it because you're worried about something, and that's not gonna get you where you want to go.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deep.
So check it out. So we have the quote of the day. Y'all ready for this?
Yeah.
What y'all think about this? He who says he can, he who says he can't, are both right. Henry Ford. What's your thoughts on that?
He's right.
You manifest words. Look, I just heard something recently where it's like, careful what music you listen to, because that energy will come through and it will manifest. I remember after I got married, I can't even listen to half the 90s R&B songs because they all about like cheating and sleeping around. I was just like,
I try to listen to Drew Hill. You can't creeping in my bed.
Yeah.
I don't want to sing this anymore. I feel like
I didn't know they were saying that. Yeah.
But
I think that's a great quote, right? Yeah. Because it's so true. Yes. But do people believe it? Right? Yeah. Do people believe that you are actually a product of your beliefs?
If you say you can't do it, you're not even. Most of the time, people are not even gonna try it. So
you're tough.
Yeah.
A belief don't have to be true for it to be powerful. So yeah. I think whether or not somebody believes or doesn't believe, the fact is if you don't believe, that's still a belief, and it's still gonna have an outcome. And whether or not that outcome is what you want or what you desire, that's where you got to get to doing some soul searching, which is
when I was a manager, can't was my favorite word to hear from my direct reports, especially the people that work like on the floor, because I was like, oh, you can't do that thing. And then I would do it and break down the instructions, because it's exactly what she said. They speak it and they create this narrative in their head. And it's like, but no, I can't. And it's almost like a little Disney character or something where it's like, no, I can't do it. But of course, in that space, I was, an authoritative person. So it's like, okay, they had to listen to me. But if you don't have somebody manner, when you take that stance, you will live in that narrative. Because if I was a different manager and I would have been like, oh yeah, you're right, then the narrative would have continued. And see, she said I can't do it either. See, I can't do it. Instead of, well, I know this has to be done, so how do I do it? Yeah. How do I figure this out? I used to tell them all the time, it's 2022. There's not too many things that don't exist right now to make your job easier or, make a task simpler or, less impactful on your body, et cetera, et cetera. And that can go to businesses. There's so many ways to automate, innovate, systems in place. And that's why I love when people say, I can't do that. Okay, challenge.
Yeah. One of the things when we talk about what Henry Ford talks about, he who says he can, he who says he can't, we can have a poverty mindset. Mm-hmm. And we'll believe the first part of that, right? Really, we can't do it. We can't do it, so we never even try, right? And so I know you, Johnny, you probably know who said this right here, right? Don't say I can't afford it.
Amen.
How can I afford it?
Oh no, that's was that a Grant Cardone or somebody like that?
Him too, but Robert Kiyosaki said in the Rich Dad Poor Dad book. But it's true. You know what I'm saying? Now, if you're working a 9 to 5, right? Let's say you're working 12 hours a day, right? You could be working, saving your money up to when you do get some, little side, little business on the side on a Saturday or whatever the case is, you can start building that up till you get to the point to where it can take over your full-time job. You know what I'm saying? So it's a way to get it done. If you want to get out of that 9 to 5, you can definitely get it done. But if you tell yourself you can't do it, you're not even going to try it. You
And
know what I'm
this is
saying?
being open to thinking. I one of
Yes.
the books that I prescribe to people, especially when they want to do private banking, is a book called The Banker's Code, and it's by a brother named George Antone, and he describes there 3 different types of people. You know, Robert Kiyosaki had the business quadrant where the employer,
Right.
employee. So his is 3 different groups. There are consumers, which people who basically believe that they can leverage their time for money,
Mhm.
for income. There are producers who leverage other people's time for money. And then there are bankers who leverage their money
Rich
in
people,
order to get
yeah.
just a banking mindset. We ain't even
Yeah.
got to say, let's just go into Brother Jarrell, for what Jarrell does, right? For the people who his clientele, they believe that, hey, like I think he sent a deal to me once that I passed to some of my clients. The property was valued at like 300 something K. The investor that wanted to get it was like 200 something that they paid for, and they were looking for a loan to refinance it for like 176,000. So most people were like, man, I never do something like that. But the person who understands the money part, they believe, what their beliefs are about money. They're like, well, if I invest in this and I do this deal, well, then I automatically have cash flow starting off. So that's always a positive. And then if this person defaults on the loan, well, now I got a property that's worth 300 something $1,000 that I only paid about 100 something for.
In fact, it's not a lose situation.
It's not. It's all in what you believed, because most people have been conditioned to where go buy a home and live in it, and that's going to be your asset. When truth be told, Jay, you will be able to be an authority on this, but in most cases, the house you live in is not an asset in a lot of cases. So
Yeah.
when
Okay,
people
yeah,
get
you got a wrong house. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's just belief. It's what you believe that you can do, what you believe is possible. Because that's literally that separates my successful clients from people who are like, man, that sounds awesome, but I don't know. And it's like, nah, bro, you can go get an insurance policy too. You can get it structured. You don't have to put $1 million into it. You don't have to do what they did, but you have to be able to see the value in how this works for you. And if you don't see it and you don't believe it, in the case with Sheila and your coaching and your therapy, if somebody doesn't believe that they need help, if they keep denying it and they don't believe that they need help, well, then they're going to continue to live in that world that full of frustration and anxiety that they live in, because they believe that that's perfectly fine. You can't fix a problem that you don't see as a problem.
Mhm. And
So
then I'm just going to say, so that last thing that you had going across about the can't afford it, just from I want to say like a psychosomatic type of way, right? So we have an intelligence that's always listening to us, and we are always programming our mind for advancement, for growth, or for death and destruction, right? And
Mm,
so the words like can't, even though the mind doesn't understand that there's a restrictive feeling behind that word, right? So there is this kind of resistance that you have. So when you say the word can't, although the mind can't process that, right? The word can't, it actually feels like, oh, there's resistance around spending, right? So we want to, and how we do one thing is how we do everything. So we want to be mindful about how words are attached to our emotions. And sometimes, people who say can and can't afford end up finding themselves in spaces in other places of their life where they want to do something and now they can't afford it because they have programmed themselves to be restrictive to, opportunities in general. And so just learning how to use more open words and use more open language, can really help you start to manifest things and distinguish between what you want to invest in and what you don't want to invest in. But if you have this mindset of very much restrictive, I can't do this or I can't afford that, there is an emotion that's associated to that can definitely have you not as open to life and opportunities.
But
You know
think
what helped
about it,
me
each
learn
one of
that?
us worked a 9 to 5,
Huh?
right?
I
Each one
would
of us. Go ahead.
No, I
Johnny.
was just gonna just piggyback. Like, what helped me learn what you're saying is with my kids. Um, you
Yes.
could easily say don't run, but all they hear is run.
Yep.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
when it changed, walk, please walk, walk,
Yes.
please.
Yeah.
You know, then it changed. It was more of the affirmative. Our
Yeah.
minds only, like you were pointing out, our minds only understand the affirmative. They don't. It doesn't comprehend what not to do. Because if you told
Right.
somebody, don't think about a polar bear right now. All of
First
you
thing they're
got,
going to
I
think
got it.
about is
All
a
y'all
polar
got a
bear.
Coca-Cola commercial popped up in your head.
But
So no, go ahead. My bad, Jay. I just want to.
No, it's all
But I
good.
love that example. And actually, I'm going to use it because I think that is exactly what it is. And I think that we really have to be mindful of the language that we use, especially as creators, because we are asking for a space to be open for us or for our territory to be expanded. And, we can have some resistance in our emotions that is stifling that process from happening. And it's because we're like, oh, I can't do this or I can't afford that yet, and all of that is resistant, and your intelligence doesn't know what's restrictive, so it'll shut down everything for you.
and you know what that reminds me of, Sheila, the example we used the other day where it was like, oh, I don't trust nobody. It's that
Yes.
same
Yes.
space.
Yes.
Where it's like,
Yes.
if that's what you project and that's what you keep saying,
Yeah.
why
Then
don't
yeah.
you
Then
trust?
yeah.
That should I trust you?
Yeah.
Like
Should
it's
I
that
trust you?
it's
Yeah.
so much
Yeah.
power in words. I feel like so
Yeah.
many people don't. And it's the words we say to ourselves. I think that's what
Mm-hmm.
people forget. We're not talking about the words you say to everybody else. These are the words, these quotes are words, somebody is
Mm-hmm.
projecting into themselves.
Yeah.
And
And
so,
so for me, it'll be like, let me see how I can afford that, right? Go into
yeah,
life with more of a curious mind,
yeah.
right? Let me see if I can do that. Let me
How
see
long will
if
it
I
take
can
me to
afford
get
that.
there?
Yeah, yeah. So it's just really opening up your energy field, right, to different possibilities.
Yeah. But so I mean, we all had 9 to 5 jobs, right? At one point at that job, we said, well, how can I get out of this job and do my own thing? So, you open up that possibility and you try to figure out a way to get to where you're trying to go. And look at you now, you're an entrepreneur, right? But
The
it's
Mhm.
just
human
not.
experience is funny because I forgot, was it Habits of a Happy Brain is a book I was reading, and it just goes into like cortisol levels. And I think you guys were talking about good stress and bad stress.
Mhm.
And that's like what you just mentioned, that push that everybody felt, that painful experience. I was like, man, forget these folks, man. I ain't y'all ain't fit. Y'all had y'all last time. That was y'all last time. And whatever that may be, I'm pretty sure everybody done said it. Nah, that was your last time doing that
That
with
was the
people.
last time.
Mhm.
And then your mind said, okay, here's a way to get out of here. This
Mhm.
is what
Yeah.
you do. You do this.
Figure it
You
out. Instead of saying,
figure
I
it
will
out.
never quit this job, you figured out, how do I quit this job?
Mhm.
How do I
Yeah.
get what I'm worth?
Yeah. And maybe I quit my job because I remember quitting my job and riding out of that job with maybe like $5 in my account, no savings. I didn't know what I was gonna do, but I had restricted my time so much
Yes.
that at first when I took the job, I was like, yeah, I can keep a part-time job as a therapist, and then I'm getting this job over here, and that's gonna pay for my bills. But it was taking up so much time that I didn't even have the energy
To do anything.
to create the opportunities that I was looking for. So I felt like the job itself became restrictive, which then started to make me restrict myself, because sometimes if you just sit for 8 hours, it could
You're
take your
tired.
energy away,
It
you know what I
takes
mean?
That
Yeah.
was
Look,
So
you just spoke my whole story. I love that because people don't understand that when you're in that space and it's just constant discomfort. 8 hours can feel like 16,
yeah, like I'm
depending on
tired
the
from
end.
just sitting here, just
Yes, and I would come home and it's like I don't even want to see
yes.
my kids. Like, oh, here y'all go.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah,
tired.
yeah. So I mean, So I think that my point was that, you know, in working, like sometimes it's like, how do you find a way out? And I mean, I don't know how I found the way out, because you would think that I wanted to stay, like this was a secure job. Like, no, but I really only got like $5 in my account once my check come and my bills is paid. But I got to leave here because I know that I'm used to producing way more income with my time, and it just became very, very restrictive, you know. Now the barter for that, which again is other people's value, is somebody value, was it was a high status job.
Yes.
So that I got to network and be in communities and sit at tables that, you know, I probably don't get to sit at now. But I'm like, y'all can have them tables.
Y'all can have those tables, bro. I remember when somebody was like, "What are you gonna do?" Somebody else can have this job. I said all day,
Yeah.
every day. If because
Yeah.
my thing was
Y'all
always
can have
push
them
come to
tables.
shove, I can always go get another job.
I'm going to make my
I
own
said,
table.
Yo, here's the truth. The fact is that when so many people don't mention the fact that you don't have to have a job to pay your bills. You have to make smart decisions with your money,
yes,
Mm-hmm.
and
That's
that's how bills are paid.
yes,
mm-hmm.
Uh, you
because
know,
you can have a
Mm-hmm.
job and not pay your bills.
yeah.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
I love that, Johnny. That's
a lot
Yeah.
of the most successful artists, you know, that the people who are, I mean, photographers, painters, the people who are truly successful, yes, some of them may be starving artists or whatever, but a lot of them are just smart and strategic to the point to where, hey, when I was working, I bought this house, the franchise situation I mentioned earlier, or I have a portfolio. I have this, that, or the
real
other,
property for
but it's
sale.
bringing in some passive income. So
Yeah.
that way, I don't have to worry about whether or not what excites me, whether doing what excites me is going to pay my bills. Because
Yeah.
I think that often becomes a huge conflict of interest and a real point of contention for a lot of people, because you don't really get to embrace your full creativity and be free in what you in your execution and planning when you still have this looming, because bills ain't going nowhere, but when you still got that bill over you, oh man, my phone gonna get cut off, man, I don't need no
Yeah.
eviction, and
Not a good situation, bro.
that's
You
Trust
a
me.
know,
horrible.
I'm so glad you said that, because that is exactly what I learned to do. I had 4 properties, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna fix these. That was what I did. I'm gonna take this lump sum. I'm gonna fix these properties up. That's gonna give me my residual income. At the time, I was going through a foreclosure, and I could buy the house back. And I'm like, nope, because I wouldn't be able to afford it. So we're gonna let that house go. I paid for my car, bought, moved in one of my rental homes that I had, so I didn't have anything. And people's like, well, why are you reducing your life? Because I know that this journey I'm finna go on, I don't want to have to think or be moved to have to take a position because my lifestyle is not being
Yes.
met. You know what I mean?
Yes,
And that was
yes.
a very much a strategic decision. Like, I'm gonna live very meager or mediocre
Modest.
for the
Yeah.
Frugal.
next five fugal for the next 5 years. And I'm doing that strategically because I'm gonna pay for my car. Like, I want to, because I don't want to have to feel like, oh my gosh, I need to go get a job,
Yes.
to make ends meet. And I didn't take on that mindset until after, like, I left that corporate job. And because a part of the reason for me taking it was because I didn't have plans like that in place. And a part of me even getting the job was to stabilize my income so that I could, even though I made a lot of money as a therapist, I blew a lot of money. So I'm like, well, maybe if I get a job and have a stable income, then I can, pay my bills on time and get the stuff. And yeah, it stabilized me right to that,
Yeah,
right
man.
to how much money I was making. But afterwards, I'm like, okay, she, what are you going to do? Because we want to be in a different position, and we want to create a different experience for you. And yeah, and doing that. And I think that, so it wasn't about me keeping my job to have an income coming in. It was about me finding creative ways to have passive income. And in Saginaw, you could buy a house for $8,000. You know what I mean? $10,000, you know, like,
No, actually.
you know, very, very, very inexpensive. And you can have $550 to, you know, $750, you know, $750 coming in on income out of that. And okay, so I got a couple of houses coming in. I got about $2,500 coming in. I could live off that, you know, for the next couple of years. You know what I mean?
You know, the image that came to mind, Sheila, was if you're shooting an arrow, where it's like you kind of
Gotta
take
pull
that
it back.
step back, you got to focus, and then you go. And that
Mhm.
distance is truly, you know, you control the distance. But
Yeah.
that's how I see it, because I'm sure a lot of people like, because that's kind of similar to my journey, where it's like you got to step into this space. It may look like I'm doing something crazy, but it's like, no, I know where I'm gonna go. So
Mhm.
it's like I'm just pulling back right now, and when I go, I'll see y'all.
So three more quick questions.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Great.
So are you on autopilot or are you manning the plane of your life?
Where you get this question from?
So,
I'm always
No, no.
intrigued.
you know, some people may be working their 9 to 5, right? And they're just going through the motion. They may hate the job. They may even love the job, just going through the motion, right? Take their little vacation, eat their little square little lunch or whatever the case is, and it's on autopilot. You know what I'm saying? But are you the one that's making things happen? Are you in control of it? You know what I'm saying? If you do have a desire to be an entrepreneur or a business owner, are you doing that?
That's deep.
It's something to think about.
Look,
You
this
got
sound like a
Are
question
you
for
on
the audience.
autopilot or are you manning the plane
Is this a question for
of your
us
life?
individually, or
yeah.
just?
Well, it's basically for the entrepreneurs, basically the ones
Oh,
that's yeah. So we
Listen,
talk about the new entrepreneurs, or people who want to be an entrepreneur, whatever the case is. So that's important to know, right? Because you need to be the pilot, man.
I think
Yeah.
it's
You know,
just at different levels. I think everybody probably dreams of that autopilot level because
yeah.
that is very much real and it does exist.
Mhm.
It's just the journey to that autopilot level. Um, you know, that's the part where you have to that the discipline, the work ethic, the business acumen, you know, those all are the things that involve you manning the plane and then
Yeah.
getting to that level, that cruising altitude where you can put it on autopilot and we're at
Reward.
30,000 feet. So we're good here. We've built up, we can just cruise and coast. It's like even when you like driving on the highway, you know, you don't put it in cruise control and unless we on it. All right, it's 70, 75. Cool. It's clear, open lane. Cool. It's not until you see the conditions have been met
Mhm.
before I'd be like, yeah, we just gonna kind of cruise this thing on out.
but think about
Mhm.
the person, right, who who may have the entrepreneur spirit, right? Who's working at that job, and you know this ain't where you want to be at. But like we talked about, it pays our bills, right? I know I go to work every day. I know I'm gonna get this amount of money. I can pay my bills, but maybe a little bit
Mhm.
over to do a few things I want to do or whatever. But we're allowing this job to basically have your life on autopilot.
Yeah. So
Setting
that's
emotion.
that's kind of how I looked at it too, like autopilot being that a system is already put in place for you and you are coming in and basically you are allowing that system to take you from point A to point B, or are you the person that is defining the destination for your life? So is that how you ask that question? Yeah. So are you the one who's manning the plane and saying, I'm taking this plane here? Or are you going into the plane and it's already programmed where you're gonna go and you're just sitting there and allowing it to coast for
Uh,
you?
I didn't. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lots of ways to flip this question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It
I
is.
You got too
I,
many technical people on the
I
line,
think
Jamie.
I think in that case, like that's just something that everybody individually is going to have to get over. It's a scary process. And as much as you try to ask people for help or advice or consultation, the fact is you still going to have to jump in the
Do it.
water yourself. You're going to have to
Yeah.
be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
There's no growth without discomfort. Whether you
Yeah.
physically growing, emotionally, financially, there's always going to be discomfort where there's growth.
Yes.
I like that plane
Absolutely.
analogy though, because you have to man it when it's taken off. Like you
Yeah.
you have to there has to be somebody in control. You reach a point, and then of course if something happens, you have to man it. If a challenge comes up, you have to man it. I like that from that
Mhm.
perspective. But the
Well, I
goal is
definitely feel like I'm manning the plane. I definitely feel like one of the things I worked on is where am I going? What is it that I want and who do I need to be every day to get there? And I think that requires adjusting sometimes, adjusting my motivation level, adjusting my discipline level. But the direction that I'm saying I'm gonna take me is definitely a manning process, right? Like, I'm yeah, definitely man in the plane. And it's not easy all the time, especially. And when do you typically man a plane too? So let's think about that because sometimes you see pilots man a plane when it's turbulence, right?
yeah.
So then they'll take it off of autopilot. And I think in life, people who are on autopilot tend to get coaches and therapists because they've reached some turbulence and now it's time for them to man the plane and they don't know how to do that. And so they seek help because they like, hey, something's going on and what I thought was working, it ain't working no more, right? In my business or in my life in general. And so I definitely feel like manning the plane is definitely something that a skill that you need to learn, which is the emotional management part, you know. And if you choose to be on autopilot and go into a system, that's fine, And if you choose to create that system for yourself, but you definitely want to learn how to at least man the plane.
Yeah,
I-
I think we had talked about this. Was it last week or previously? Um, I'm a big stickler on you don't necessarily have to learn every piece of your business, but if you're going to run this business and you're going to be shipping things out, you don't need to be the shipping expert, but you do need to understand what pieces need to be in place and how they need to be operation or how they need to be, um, optimized to run efficiently. You need to understand the sales aspect. There's so many people who I end up talking to, and they're like, "Yeah, I got this financial advisor, and he has me in this and he has me in that." And I'll be like, "Well, do you know what it is that he has you in? Do you know what a mutual fund is? Do you know what these things are? Do you know what the fees that are associated with them?" And I
Mhm,
think for me, that's a big part of what I believe is like manning the plane.
mhm,
Um, Kind of feeding off of what you said, Sheila, which is when are things getting rocky to where I have to take a step up and put forth some more effort. It may require me not going out this weekend and I have to, maybe invest in a seminar that involves, getting your sales team together, whatever
mhm,
specific problem. But if you don't take the time to I fix my car watching YouTube. I know that's random, but I literally fix my car watching YouTube. I changed the camshaft sensor in the car from watching
Check
YouTube.
you out.
I am by
Mechanics do
no
it too.
means
I'm seeing it do it too.
I
So I
am by
get it.
no means a mechanic. I'm
Yeah.
not. My father-in-law is the mechanic. My grandpa, there's so many other people in my family that are mechanics. But it was like, all right, they're not around now. I need to get this done. I need to figure it out. So at least before I go take it to the shop and they tell me about these 8 to 12 different things that's wrong with this car, let me at least get an idea of myself. And I think that nobody in this world should shy away from the times where they have to man the plane, where they have
mhm,
to take a step up and maybe crack open a book or two, because yeah, you may not be able to master everything, but you
mhm,
have way more capacity than I think a lot of individuals give themselves credit for.
Man,
mhm,
say that
Look,
again
back
slower.
over
I
the book.
think that's all me and Sheila are trying to help people to understand. You said it. You have more capacity than you realize. I like the young man you brought on, the layup owner.
mhm,
I
mhm,
like what he said. It's like, you're a 60 white light. Yeah, you're a light bulb. You may be 100 white light bulb plugged into a source that only
Was
provides you 60. Like, you don't even know
your
you sitting
capacity.
walking around thinking you a 60-watt light bulb. But
Mhm,
I think, Johnny, because that's my approach too. I at least gotta put my toe in it, and then it'd be like, yeah, I can't do that. Or it's like, all right, I'm gonna try. Maybe I'm
mhm,
two more toes in. See, but
mhm,
you at least got to have that courage to be like, nah, I need to phone a friend. I need to grab a lifeline and
Yeah.
figure out this obstacle. Can I accomplish this? Do I need help?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's at some point in life you're gonna have to man your plane. Like you're gonna have to be the individual that steps up. And like I said, all too often though, we do it when we hit turbulence, and
Yeah.
sometimes it can make it a little bit more challenging. So if you can learn how to man the plane outside of our difficult times and just pick up a book or read about this and things you're interested in, I think it'll definitely help you more when it's time to get in that passenger seat.
You
And
take the analogy to the next level. You man the plane when you want to change the direction.
Yeah.
yeah,
You
like
can't
that's deep.
autopilot.
That's
So
deep.
when you ready to change the direction, you better man that plane.
Yeah.
And I'm not like I said, for me,
So we're
I
gonna
mentioned
jump.
that my mom was on that, and my bad, just run through this. Like she used to be that way. Like figure it out before you ask me. Figure it out. So there's no such thing as a stupid question, but there are such things as educated questions. And if you
Mhm.
just, when you go to the doctor office, he don't just tell you what's wrong with you. Is usually if you can accurately, yeah, I'm coughing. I feel this in my chest. I notice a pain in this side. Maybe you don't, you read and found out what a lymph node was, and my lymph nodes are sore, or whatever. But whatever it is, you're helping him identify whatever the issue is and get you
Mhm.
closer to the solution, which, in my definition, is a way of manning that proverbial plane.
Yes.
Mhm.
So my bad, Jack. Go ahead.
No, we'll jump over to this last question, the second question here, or second to the last question. I'm gonna ask the last one here. All right. So, as an entrepreneur or business owner, who holds you accountable in business,
You
or
myself
do
and I.
anybody hold you accountable?
Some people do need accountability.
Do
I
you have
think it's a
accountability?
part. Yeah, so we actually have an accountability program. So I think it is definitely a personality trait. Some people do just need to be held accountable. They have no problem with executing, but they need to know that, okay, it's so much. Just give me 3 things to do and hold me accountable to that. And two, because first we make our habits and then our habits make us. And some of us just haven't created the habits that is required to, hold ourselves accountable to some things. Or some of us can be, I think we call it in the healing space, hold a space for you, holding a space for a person. But some people just don't can be stuck and need to be held accountable to move forward or hire a coach or whatever that next step is. Some people do need to be held accountable. So who holds you accountable in business? Yes, the to me the answer would be you. But if you can't, then you are responsible for hiring somebody too or having somebody too.
And that's a good point because know what you need to be held accountable for. Because I work with people where it's like they're really good at this one thing, but when it comes to a certain space, they do need that reminder. They do need that push because they're hitting, something that has a little bit of resistance. So I think that's important too, is knowing where you need the help being held, to Sheila's
Mhm.
point.
Yeah.
I
And
I
big
think it's you.
corporations, depending on what kind of business you have, like I have a board as a nonprofit. My board holds me accountable as as a director, right? Um,
That's what I was
so
gonna say. Your business itself is what holds you accountable.
yeah,
Whether it be you structure it to where you have a board, a board of members, or even just the success or the milestones that you have. Nobody is there, and that's what I'm going back to this for my entrepreneurs. If you're starting off, nobody specifically is there in the middle of the night when you're sleeping to hold even your spouse. This is something that you chose to embark in, that you chose to do. So at the end of the day, if it doesn't get done, you can call Sheila, Danielle, Jay, whoever else it is. But if you don't do the work, ultimately it's gonna come down to you, because you're gonna look around and say, God, I'm not able to go buy the things I want. I'm not able to go on vacation. Shaping Solutions is still going to do ENIAC, Infinite, Mid-City, DCDR. They're still going to be moving regardless of whether or not you choose to do what you said you were going to do in the first place. But then that's what goes into, if you feel the most accountable thing that you could do whenever you feel like you're not even going to reach that is be open and honest and say, you know what, I'm not ready. I'm not ready for that step yet. And there may be a coaching solution that you may need to go, but I think the accountability part is when you realize, if you don't meet those goals that you set because life happenstance, it just wasn't your time. That's perfectly fine. But when the goals don't get met because you're not moving to act or to make any movement on them, I think that's
Mhm.
where it becomes your business itself and the state that it's going to be in. That's all the accountability you need, because nobody, I mean, we're all been some level of successful at what we're doing. The last thing that you really want is that egg on your face when you're going back and all them doubters and the naysayers. And I'm not saying you need to hold their
Yeah.
opinions to some pedestal or whatever, but just human reaction. You get that gratifying feeling when somebody's like, well, how's your little business doing? It's going quite well, actually.
That's a good motivator.
It's
Thank
actually
you for
thriving.
asking, sir or ma'am.
Oh,
Right.
let me tell you what just happened. We just got a new client in versus, oh well, yeah, we had to shut down
I agree, Terry.
and yeah, that, but then the customers go into, like I said, the state of the business. It's just the
Mhm.
Yeah.
state of the business at the end of this is not of as much as you want to feel good, this is still business at the end of the day. Your customers don't owe you anything. If
But
Mhm.
they
hopefully
choose
they'll
to,
But
remind
I
you.
think I think from the vessel of, that you have these customers. Hey, Terry. I know that when you have these customers and you are responsible for the service you're providing, and that's the space that they're holding you accountable to. That you had an agreement, that you said that you were going to deliver this service or deliver this product, and the customer is there, and there are your accountability partner, because you made a promise that you was going to deliver something, and they're
Yes.
holding you accountable to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great perspective.
last answer, your bank account. That's what holds
Yeah.
you. If I
Yeah.
had to, you just made me, but I'm sorry, I don't mean to just go back to the accounting aspect of it, but when that revenue is down, the expenses
Mm-hmm.
still going, the fixed cost still going to stay the
Yeah,
same.
yeah,
You
See,
know,
yeah.
I like that.
your bank account is going to hold your kids. That's who going.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Right,
Well,
right.
this has been a great one,
There's a
man.
whole bunch. It's a whole bunch of accountability partners.
That's a
Now,
whole
Uh-huh.
yeah,
bunch
when
of.
you expand your mindset and really start to
Yeah,
think about it.
yeah.
I know there's a lot of questions here, man, but y'all knocked it out of the park, man. So tell everybody about what you guys got going on.
What we kicking off with?
Ladies first.
Anybody can jump in there.
Okay. Well, I'm Miss Sheila again. Miss Sheila Little, PhD candidate of business psychology. Shaping Solutions is my organization. We provide consulting, coaching, and a little bit of therapeutic techniques to entrepreneurs who want to transform their personal life so that they can feel the fullness that they, I think, desire and ultimately deserve, right? As a consequence, your business will improve. We do have the Elevating Life podcast that comes on Monday. Danielle and I, my co-host, is it over there? Oh, right here. Ooh, you know,
Yeah.
um, on Mondays. And we also have the 30-day affirmation challenge that we'll put in the link. Sign up so that you can take part in that transformational experience. And we thank the people who have already done so.
Yes. And I'm Danielle MacArthur, DCDR Solutions, specialize in working with folks who are at that point of putting a toe in the water and wanting to make that leap using a lot of continuous improvement, root cause analysis techniques to remove obstacles and expand the mind on the possibilities so that we're not putting the word can't in front of the things that you need to get done. So I
Mhm.
like working with people and helping them remove obstacles so that they can truly grow to their full potential.
Yeah. I guess it's my turn now.
Sir.
Mhm.
All right. My name is Jonathan Smith, aka Johnny Leverage. I am a wealth strategist, a business advisor, and trust consultant with Eniad Infinite. What we do is we help successful business owners and investors spend less time wondering about key financial decisions and more time focusing on what it takes to really grow and make their operations thrive. We do that specifically by helping reduce tax bills, 50 to 90% for business owners. We help you not have to worry about capital gains taxes. We turn expenses into revenue. We'll show you how to create disability income and exit strategies through life insurance policies, just to name a small bit of what we do. We actually have an event going on in the DFW at House of Cigars. It is called the Creating Leverage Wealth Workshop, where I will be showing individuals who come exactly some of those things that I just mentioned, as well as the part I've mentioned about buying a franchise, turning your business into a franchise, as well as hopefully Brother Jay is going to be there to drop some real estate game, and it's just really a place that you want to be if you have some financial goals and you want to get a clear a track or a map as to how you can reach these goals, utilizing some methods that maybe you've heard of, maybe you haven't, but nonetheless are definitely available to everyone.
Absolutely, man. Look,
I'm excited to hear about that, how the workshop goes.
Absolutely. We'll take
Where is it at, Johnny?
It's at House of Cigar Lounge. It's in Dallas, Texas, actually Farmers Branch off of Midway and 635. It's October 20th from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m.
Nice.
Absolutely. And me, everything real estate.
That was a good summary, bro.
That's pretty much what it is. You want to know anything about real estate, just reach out to me.
I do real estate.
Everything in between.
Land, all that good stuff. Wholesaling, the whole nine. So,
I want to vouch for this, man. If you want to know about real estate, I've learned so much just passively sitting around the podcast, the real estate one you got with Jason and Jay and Lenny. If you're looking to get into the real estate space, there's a lot of confusion out there, but not a lot of transparency. And this brother here and the people at Mid City, the whole group of individuals he brings to the table, everyone is you guys have been you've witnessed this podcast, so everyone around is a wonderful person who brings a wealth of knowledge to the table.
With the best intentions.
And open book too, man. I ask any question you have, man. You know what you do don't affect my pockets at all. So giving you a little game, I have no problem with doing that, man. You know what I'm saying? So, hey, man, I salute to everybody, man. You guys continue to kill it. You know, y'all pick this up. You know, so
I learned it because I saw y'all do it so many times, and I'm like, you
got to do it. All right, you guys have a great rest of the evening.
All right. Princess Way.
Pageant way.
Pageant way. All right.
Y'all be blessed.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.